Hi from me, Romy Stach, and welcome to Derech Eretz, the way of the world. In today's show, Dr. Jonathan Moch explores health and well-being. We meet Karen Borochowitz of Dementia SA and talk to Linda Lewis about postnatal depression. Judaism acknowledges a distinction between mental and physical health. However, in the Mishe Beirach prayer for the sick, tradition treats them on an equal plane, recognizing that both a healthy body and a healthy mind are necessary for human beings to be complete. Dr. Jonathan Moch elaborates further.
How do we live a good life, a better life, a more flourishing life? And there's much science to share on how to do that. Eating better, sleeping better, less stress. But I think as I get older and perhaps more mature, I found that it's not being clever that I admire, but more kindness. I admire kindness, and I think this could be a central feature to living a good life, a better life, is being kinder, not only to others, but to yourself. I think this is a profound idea. And being kind to yourself is, a sense, making space for yourself. Moses was the most humble of all people. And I've asked that question, what does it mean to be humble? And I actually ran a philosophy club on a Thursday night, and we discussed this at length, and we said humility is the ability to create space for others. Because when a person is narcissistic or full of themselves, there's no space for others. So being humble means creating space for others. But the important thing is also to put in, like the Torah does, the 5 books of Moses, is puts in also the tough times. It's not a whitewash. There are really, really tough times and tough questions. You know, there's lots of books on nutrition. There's lots of books on sleeping better and stress and you know, the blue zones and how people get to 100 and live well. But I think right at the kernel of this, the DNA, the gene in the DNA, the genetic sequence, is living an authentic life, who you are, warts and all, because everybody is unique. And I think that's, as I start to under the human condition more and more and read and the great writers of the world, it all comes down to this, is authentic self. And coming out of the authentic self is the moral self. And what is the right thing to do? And how to make the world better, so you leave the world a better place. Science can't do that. Only a moral life, which was the religion. So with help from Rabbi Jonathan Moch, I admit that life is not just a scientific life or what is, but the moral religious life is what we ought to do.
Dementia SA is committed to upholding the dignity of all people affected by dementia and places a premium on providing services in underdeveloped areas. Founder Karen Borochowitz believes that the only way to change society's thinking about dementia is through education and awareness.
My journey in dementia started for me when my mother, at the age of 62, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, which is a type of dementia. And that was way back in 1992. My mother lived with the disease for 21 years and sadly passed away in 2012. But during that time, after that exposure and that understanding of what dementia really is and how dislocated families can be as a result of a diagnosis of a loved one with dementia, I came to realize that more and more people needed some kind of help. They needed information, they needed the correct information, and they needed that information in order to make educated decisions about how they were going to carry on, caring for the person with dementia, what lay ahead.
Dementia is a group of illnesses that tend to more readily affect older people. Normally, at age 60, a woman in this country and a man in this country is defined in terms of the Older Persons Act as being an older person. So people younger than 60 could develop dementia, and there's different types of dementia that particularly targets people at younger age groups. But also, the older we become, the higher our chances become of developing a dementia. But if we look at the fact that people of 85 years old and older have about a 50% chance of developing dementia, we can see that half of us may not have dementia ever, and let's hope that it doesn't hit us because it's devastating.
I was a counsellor with Lifeline. I worked specifically on the suicide line, and that counselling experience and that engagement with people really gave me an enormous insight into how I was, going forward, how I would be able to handle both my mother's condition, but not only my mother's condition, but also more specifically my father, and the dislocation of our family and the diagnosis. And then I went on to realize that more and more people were experiencing the same as I was, and that by speaking to somebody, it enabled me to understand the disease better, and I could understand and empathize with them and them with me. And so it was then that we formed Dementia SA more formally as an organization, and the team has just grown and grown and grown, and so have the number of support groups that we've been able to establish.
People need support groups, and you can help people in these various areas. So we feel it's important to spread the message of awareness. As we have about 23 support groups, and I think people are just happy that there's some place where they can go to, and number one, just have respite for the 2 or 3 hours when somebody looks after them, and secondly, to be informed of what's happening. And thirdly, there's a camaraderie, there's a togetherness, they're not alone.
In black communities, the most common problem is that they would think that when the person has dementia and is talking about people that died many years ago, they would think that the person had killed those people. They would think that the person is being exposed, that she has bewitched those people. And when they think like that, that person gets killed. That is the most sad thing that happens in most black communities.
The awareness is very important because normally the people, when their loved ones suffer from dementia, they're either in denial or they don't know what to do because their loved one's behavior is completely different. And so I do the awareness talks at various senior groups, churches, wherever they want me to come and talk, just to make them aware that there is help out there, what to do and what not to do. I also talk to them about the early warning signs and how to get their loved one assist to find out what type of dementia they're suffering from.
They're not an empty vessel. They still are, they still have their essence there. Their soul is still there. And also for us to know that people with dementia are valuable and they need to know that they're valued.
It is very important to have caregivers trained into understanding what dementia is and how to handle people who have dementia, to have knowledge of dementia. Because if you have knowledge of dementia, knowing where the person is coming from, you will have patience as a caregiver to look after the person.
The training sessions that we have is the Introduction to Understanding Dementia training course. We do have another 3 more modules that was only introduced in the Eastern Cape, which was the activities and the Older Persons Act and the communication as well.
We want to empower people. We want them to understand what dementia is, what Alzheimer's disease is, what Lewy body dementia is, what HIV/AIDS dementia complex entails in the life of somebody with HIV and AIDS. So there's a number of different things that we do in order to empower these people to understand that.
There's a book that was designed by Dementia SA that we use when we do our training workshops. It is called a speaking book. It is a speaking book because you could listen to what is said about dementia. It's telling the people what dementia is, what are the things, the improper behaviors that people do when they have dementia, and tell people that they should go for proper diagnosis and how to communicate with them. It is in English and Xhosa. This book was designed so that even the person who is illiterate, who cannot read, can listen and get the information and get the knowledge so as to be able to help in the community, the loved ones or any other person in the community.
A very important thing that has happened here at Rehoboth, there's about 8 families, I'm included, who have lost their loved ones, but they are still involved. We all have our different experiences, the journey we walked, so they will be able to assist others in various circumstances.
When you talk to people about your own story, they can relate. It's not a textbook, it's not just what happens, and while I'm talking to them, I cry and I laugh. My mission in life now is to go and help and tell people about the dementia.
Karen is a woman of great passion, and she really empathizes, with people. She came through her own, battle and struggle, and you cannot trade that kind of experience, for anything else. And just, observing her and watching her in how she interacts, with people is a lesson in itself.
Derech Eretz for me is giving back, empowering for understanding, empathy, compassion, and through my own experience of dementia and a mother with Alzheimer's disease specifically, that is what it really is. That embodies it, is the empathy to understand that that person that has dementia now is not necessarily the person that she was 30, 40 years ago. She still is a person in there and still needs to be treated as such. And that's what we need to say for all people with dementia, is that it's not the suffering. It's not a person that suffers from dementia. It's a person that lives with dementia. And it's the ability to be able to empower families so that they're not dislocated, but how to care and how to empathize and understand that the person that they're caring for has a disease. And that is the most important thing.
About 1 in 10 women worldwide and as many as 1 in 3 South African women suffer from significant postnatal depression. Yet we hear relatively little about it. Psychologist and author Linda Lewis talks about her professional experience as a therapist, working with mothers suffering from postnatal depression, and her own experiences as a mother with PND.
Postnatal depression, as it's traditionally known, is not actually what I refer to it as. I'd rather call it postnatal distress, because it can range from adjustment difficulties all the way to postnatal psychosis. And most of the time, women present with anxiety rather than depression. So, when you have postnatal psychosis, which is very rare, like 0.002% of women will suffer from that, that's a medical emergency. That is not what I see. I may see the people after they've experienced that. Then you have adjustment difficulties, and every mother goes through that with a child. But it depends on how difficult it is. And for me, the most important question to ask is, do I feel like the person I know myself to be? And do others think that I am the person they know me to be? So, most women will think, this is just what it's like. I didn't know it was going to be like this, but this must be how it is. If they don't speak up, as most mothers don't, they will continue to feel like they are abnormal. Postnatal distress can affect women even after 3 children, 4 children. It doesn't necessarily happen for the first child. However, the risk of having it again after having it before is higher. I became interested in this topic because I suffered terribly from postnatal anxiety. And for me, it was focused mainly on lack of sleep. Now, anyone who suffers from sleep deprivation is going to really be on the edge of not coping. For me, it was more dysfunctional than that. And after I had experienced it the first time, and it took 9 months before I felt like I was absolutely myself again. I thought I will never have it again because I've really dealt with it. And then I had my second child and it hit me again. And after that, I decided I will do my master's and I'll specialize in this area because no woman should suffer the way I did, being misunderstood and feeling so ashamed of what I was experiencing.
I used to be very angry at all the time. I was very unhappy and I would blame myself for everything. And because of my background, I was always suffering from the issues that happen in my background. So I always have this blame on myself. I was always blaming myself for everything until I met her and she explained that I was suffering from depression, postnatal depression. And she advised me to get help. And after I know about it, I need to help other women.
And we got speaking about the broader community in her area, in Khayelitsha. And she and I spent a lot of time together. And we decided to reach out to that community. And on Saturday mornings, once a month, we would meet. And Ntombomsi was remarkable in terms of recruiting women. And month by month, the numbers in the group grew. And so we opened up this very honest space where women could express themselves.
It's a new thing to us, and more especially the support groups are the new things to our community. So every time we thank Linda, every time we said thank to her because she bring us close and she let us stop feeling lonely. We are not lonely anymore now.
It's often not diagnosed, and seldom are women asked, how are you doing? So they feel invisible. Even when people come to visit, it's all about the baby and it's not about the mom. So mothers get very little acknowledgement or are seldom heard when they are feeling not themselves.
At the clinic, they look at your child. How is your child growing? They look at you. If it's a natural birth, they will say, oh, you are doing well. And if it's a Caesar, they will look at your wounds, that nothing happened. Most of the time, I would go to visit for the woman who just have a baby and ask her, how are you feeling? Because no one asks us, like there's no one except Linda who have asked me how I am feeling after the birth of my children. But I'm the one who will go to that girl and ask, how are you feeling? What are your plans for the future? Because those are the kind of questions they need to hear. So at clinics, you don't hear anything about it.
One of the most important reasons why you need to get help is because P&D affects the whole family. So getting help is actually about taking care of your whole family, not just you.
Linda is a lovely person. Linda is honest. Linda have a lot of respect. It doesn't matter who you are. And if you came close to Linda, you know that she's a honest, trustworthy. She's everything. She's a quiet person who loves to laugh sometimes. She's honest. I love her. And she knows that I love her.
Ntombomsi and I have become best friends. She is my therapist. She is my source of debriefing when I am having a difficulty in my practice. She has the wisdom of generations. And I have extraordinary respect for her insight and her capacity to contain me and the women who we work with. For me, Derech Eretz is about humanity. I can't imagine a world without Derech Eretz being about the core value system of humanity and goodness and generosity. Those are the factors for me that mean the most.
American psychologist Abraham Maslow said that the ability to be in the present moment is a major component of mental wellness. If you have missed any of our past episodes of Derech Eretz, you will be able to watch them on our Derech Eretz Connect YouTube channel. From me, Romy Stach, and the Derech Eretz team, remember, health and intellect are the two blessings of life.